salvation. And we started in Genesis. What is fascinating about Genesis is that from the beginning you see God reveals a little bit. Okay? So in the beginning you have God, and the Bible says the Holy Spirit was sort of hovering, but the word that's used is brooding. It's almost like a mother hen sort of over sort of the egg, waiting to get that egg to hatch. And then during that time, something else happened. The Bible said the word was spoken. And then the Spirit of God moved from just hovering to being in action and bringing about that creation. What is interesting also to note in Genesis is that the Bible said that the Holy Spirit was hovering over chaos. There was quite a chaotic world at the time. Everything was mingled and all that. Spirit of God was released as the word was spoken. And so on this journey, we've been spending some time looking at the Holy Spirit, His ministry, His power, and how He encourages us, empowers us. And as I went to the Lord and said, well, okay, what now? What next? Where do we go from here? What I heard clearly from the Lord is it's time now to reveal Jesus. Okay? One of the things that is clear to all of us is that even if you've been in church for a long time, we don't know Him as much as we ought to. Okay? We don't know Jesus as much as we ought to. And when it comes to people out there, the Bible says something about Jesus in the Old Testament that I find fascinating. He called Jesus the desire of all nations. It is quite amazing that He's the one that all nations actually desire. I think you say, well, this is quite a bold statement, but He is the desire of all nations because the reason why the nations are not desiring Him is because all is being done to camouflage and hide who He really is. Because when you come to know Jesus for who He really is irresistible. You cannot resist Him. All of us are here because one day we went through life, we heard about this Jesus, but one day something happened to us. And then we got to know Him. And we realized it's not that swear word, it's someone different. It's someone amazing and beautiful. And as I was preparing this message, one of my favorite videos, messages in terms of who Jesus is, before I start, I'm giving myself a challenge because I don't think when you watch that video, I'm not sure I'll be able to follow that up. Because what you're going to hear, it's so amazing. So I thought it's a 5-minute video. It's this American preacher, a while back in the States, and he put this sermon together. I mean, it's poetic, if he's into words, it's quite amazing. So I'm going to ask Joshua to put that on. I'm going to listen to that and I'm going to carry on. But I think it's quite a big challenge I'm giving myself. Let's see how we get on. Shall I keep talking now? Okay, good. Can you see? Joshua, is that YouTube? No. Okay. It's quite a lot of lights. But just hang on to the words, and that's it.
The Bible says He's a king of the Jews. He's a king of Israel. He's a king of righteousness. He's a king of the ages. He's a king of heaven. He's a king of glory. He's a king of kings. And He is the Lord of lords. That's my king. Do you know Him? No means of measure can define His limitless love. Well, He's endurably strong. He's entirely sincere. He's eternally steadfast. He's immortally great. He's inferior power. And He's impartially blessed. Do you know Him? He's God's Son. He's the sinner's Savior. He's the centerpiece of civilization. He's unparalleled. He's unprecedented. For He's the largest idea in literature. He's the highest personality in philosophy. He's the fundamental doctrine of true theology. Do you know Him? He supplies strength for the weak. He's available for the tempted and the tried. He sympathizes and He saves. He heals the sick. He cleanses the lepers. He forgives sinners. He discharges debtors. He delivers the captive. He defends the thief. He blesses the young. He serves the unfortunate. He regards the aged. He rewards the diligent. And He beautifies the meek. Do you know Him? My King is the King of knowledge. He's a wellspring of wisdom.
This is our King. This is our Jesus. I mean, I can listen to this over and over and over and over. It just gives you a little glimpse of who this Jesus really is. And I'm going to do my best and share a little bit, follow that up a little bit. So just if you come back to our slide. But this is our Jesus. And once people get to know him for who he really is, as I say, like I said, he's irresistible. You cannot resist him. And you know, people out there, one of the reasons why people say, well, why are the churches dwindling? Why is it that, you know, chapels are closing in Wales? Why is it that nobody's coming to church? Well, one of the reasons for that is because we're telling people about our church. We're telling people about our program. People are not interested about our church. People are not interested about us, or, you know, they're not interested about our program. They're interested in one thing, and one person, that's Jesus. Our problem is that we stand in the way of who Jesus is. Because as you listen to that video, there's no one who can tell you that there's nothing that Jesus can do for them. He is the one for everybody. He is the desire of all the nation. And our challenge is how can we make sure that we get out of the way so that the Jesus is revealed. And I believe that coming in the coming month now, this is where we're going as a church. As you know, when we started this journey 2 years ago, we started with Alpha, and we reached out a little bit with the family fun days as an outreach. Then the whole year we'll be focusing on the whole youth part of things, because you know that's quite a challenge. Making sure that we have a youth outreach. And so this is taken up. Ram and Natasha have done an amazing job with volunteers from this church, and it's absolutely fascinating. The community now knows that we are here. Okay, we are here. God New Life is here. It's a tiny church, but we're here. And we exist to make a difference. Our mission statement is following Jesus. Who's going to help me? Come on now. Following Jesus. Growing together. Impacting God. We want to impact God. Okay, and this is the mission of the church, is to make a difference to this peninsula, and that's why God has called us for such a time as this. And so now we're moving to a time now where I believe that we're going to be upping things up again. And one of the things that the focus is going to be is how do we reveal this Jesus? How do we make sure that people in Gawa, I mean, most of them go to Sunday school, most of them, you know, so Jesus is not a word that they're not familiar with. What they don't know is who the Jesus really is. And one of the ways in which we show who Jesus is by our own lives. One of the things I hear unbelieving friends tell me over and over is Christians are hypocrites. They see a lot of hypocrisy. They see a lot of things that don't make sense, that contradict with things that we teach. And so it's going to be quite a challenge for us. But it's a good challenge. Revealing Jesus through our lives, but also revealing Jesus for who he is. So today I thought I was going to give you a little bit of a snapshot in terms of what Scripture says about who this Jesus is. So Joshua, if you go to our first verse of Scripture. I know we struggle to read, so this time I'm going to make it big. Can everybody see it now?
Yeah.
Scripture, so we can read that. That's fantastic. But this is in Galatians chapter 1, verse 15 to 17. You can read the whole passage to understand the background of this. Paul says, but when it pleased God who separated me from my mother's womb and called me to his grace to reveal, you can see I made that bold, to reveal his son in me that I might preach him among the Gentiles, I did not immediately confer to flesh and blood, nor did I go up to Jerusalem to those who were apostles before me, but I went to Arabia and returned again to Damascus. We all know Paul's story. We all know that he was this a religious leader, a Pharisee, zealous, who thought that his way was the highway, was the best way, was the only way. He thought that he was worshiping the God of Israel until Jesus met with him on the road of Damascus. We know the experience. And after that experience, Paul says something that we don't necessarily see. And that's what I want to emphasize today. And it's a bit bold. Although we saw all this extraordinary, action, the light coming and the voice and all that, Paul says something deeper happened. That God revealed his son in me. And that's the key. It's the revelation of the son in us. It's that personal revelation. He heard the apostle talk about Jesus in Jerusalem. Just as people hear about Jesus, every day. But it was when they were that encounter, that face-to-face encounter with Jesus, it's that the Father revealed Jesus in him. Something happened to him, so it was so dramatic that Paul said, listen, I didn't go to flesh and blood. Because usually the apostle in Jerusalem, the right thing to do is say, hey guys, I'm saved. Tell the Christians, say no. This Jesus was so amazing to him. The Bible says that straight away, as soon as he was prayed for, he could see, he started to go to the synagogue. Instead of killing Christians, instead of putting them in jail, he started talking about him. This is who Jesus is. This is the guy who hated this Jesus, who hated his followers, a guy who was killing his followers. He was a guy who stood there when they cast him up to stone to death. The first martyr of the church, called Stephen, Paul stood there when they were throwing stone at Stephen. And Stephen died at his word. That's how much he hated Christians. That's how much he hates believers. He was somebody high in society. He went to the Jewish leaders. He said, give me a letter, give me a permission. I'm going to go and dig these Christians out of their homes, wherever they are. I'm going to hunt them down. I'm going to kill them. I'm going to kill this whole thing. That was his mission. And when you read the first few verses, that's what he's talking about. He constantly talking about his testimony, his story. And this is this Paul, how this encounter with Jesus. He said, something happened to me. When God revealed his son in me, there was such a passionate love for this Jesus. I wonder, why is it that nobody wants to know this Jesus? Why have I spent my time fighting him? So instead of going and giving his testimony and saying, hey, apostles and whoever, listen, I become a Christian, he said, no, there was no time. I did not refer to flesh and blood. He said, I went straight away to the synagogue. He said, you Jewish people, the Messiah that you've been waiting for thousands of years and hundreds of years, I'll have an encounter with him. I met him today on the road of Damascus. He is amazing. He's wonderful. He is our Messiah. Will you know him? People were confused. Christians were like, oh, should we take him seriously? Is he a spy? Is he a double agent? This guy 1 minute was killing us and now suddenly he's talking about his Jesus? This is confusing. He said, no guys, something's happened to me. You're right. Your Jesus is irresistible. He's amazing. He's wonderful. And when you meet Jesus, one of the things that happened, and it's what happened to Paul, is that this amazing scholar, Paul is named among the Greek philosophers. If you're into philosophy, you will see that he was named among them. He used to go to the marketplace in Athens, in places on the public spaces, and he debated with the philosophers of his time. So this is what an academic, a philosopher, he was. But he came to understand that he got it wrong. You see, when it comes to God and Jesus, you can spend as much as you like to explain to people. People are going to get confused more and more and more. You don't explain it. You can't explain it. Okay? You can try, but you can't. The only way God is known to people is by revelation. He is revealed. He has to be revealed. Unless he's revealed, you can't see him. You can't know him. You can't connect with him. He bypasses the mind. I try sometimes to think about this God, and I've been looking at a few documentaries on TV recently about all this, two big telescopes, Hubble telescope, and that's the other one, Webb telescope, all these amazing telescopes that can look into light years after light years after light years. And, you look at our galaxy that's called the Milky Way, it's a huge galaxy. But they're saying that now we've got billions and billions of galaxies. And some of them are bigger than our world. He actually exists outside of all that. It's not true. It's crazy. I mean, can you imagine the maker of this phone? For those of you who are into technology, there's a lot of big data, huge amount of data. For those who went to space, in fact, there are more processing power in this little thing that some of them have those days. So you can see, I'm not your God, by the way, but picture for a moment, okay? but for this second, okay, this is God. And all these galaxies after galaxies, all these billions of galaxies, he sits outside of all that. So when the Bible says he's the first and the last, he's the beginning and the end, it makes sense. Because if you are around all that, where are you? You are. It's too big and too vast. And our galaxy is tiny among all the other galaxies. And we want our little brain to comprehend him. It can't. It's going to burst even if we try. And science tells us that we are using about 10% of our brain capacity. And look at the amazing thing that we're able to do. You know that. We'll get back to it. Let's carry on to the next verse. He is Jesus. He is wonderful. Hebrew 1:1-4. And this one is amazing. And again, it tells a bit of a story about how God revealed himself over the ages. God, who at various times and in various ways spoke in time past to the fathers by the prophet, has in these last days spoken to us by his Son, whom he has appointed heir of all things, to whom he also made the world. I want you to notice world is in plural. Who being the brightness of his glory and the express image of his person, and upholding all things by the word of his power, when he had by himself purged our sins, sat at the right hand of majesty on high, having become so much better than the angel, as he has by inheritance obtained a more excellent name than they. He's saying, you read by the Old Testament, in the time past, God used prophets to speak to us. Until the time came where God decided, I'm going to speak to you by my Son himself, Jesus Christ, as we know he came. And he said, this Jesus Christ, he is the heir of all things. The Father decided, so all these galaxies you can think about, okay? Anything that's material. He is the heir of all things, spiritual and not spiritual. He said that he is the brightness of his glory. The one thing the Bible is consistent about is that you cannot see God and live. It's not possible. The passage that follows, you see why that is. The reason why I painted that picture to you is that if you and I stand at the sun, and we stand at the sun for about 5 minutes, we know what's going to happen to us, right? Yeah? Now, if you have a God who is more than all that, in all his glory, if it's revealed, you cannot withstand him. And so the Bible says that this God decided to express himself in a way that is possible for us to come close to him. There has to be a way. I've given this example many times for those of you who've been here for a while about our younger dog when we was in a home that was really abusive and really when we got that dog out, I mean she was terrified and she very fearful, and I don't know if the guy's there, his voice is as big as my voice, but when the dog heard my voice, the dog was like, oh dear, what's happening, And I'm thinking, how can I connect this dog? Because, I brought the dog home, bathed the dog, so stinking that, oh my goodness, you won't believe it. Give it bath, put it in something really lovely and cuddle and all that. But still, I'm one of these people who got these voices that, terrify some people, I don't know why. But that poor dog seemed to be terrified. So I thought, how am I going to do this? And I thought, suddenly something came to me and I just knelt down. One of my gifts is I can play dog, you see. So I started going. Suddenly the tail started to, start wagging the tail. Suddenly she started getting excited. Suddenly she thought, oh, this is something that I can live with. And Rachel would tell you, this is how we communicate. Sometimes she comes to the living room, she's like, oh, Patricia's there. I'm going to be on my best behavior. I'm not sure what's going to happen now. She's like, oh, should I go back to the kitchen? Should I go in? And I go, and then she starts wagging her tail and she comes. The reason why I give this example is that this God, people seem to think that, I told you, one Rachel friend at Aberystwyth University, we don't go to church. Because we Christians are projected that our God is so terrifying that this lady, this friend of Rachel, who's living right here now, she wouldn't go to church because she genuinely believed that lightning was going to come down and strike her. And she was going to die. I mean, that's how bad we paint, what bad a picture we've really painted out there. So the point I'm making of all this is that God has to find a way, just as me with my big voice, the dog was terrified. If God was to show himself like that in his real essence, we could run away. The children of Israel, that happened to them in the book of, I think it's Exodus. Exodus, I think. They said they were complaining, we don't have meat. Then they have meat. They said we don't have bread. Then they have bread. Then they don't have this. One day God had enough. And God said, right, okay, Moses, we got to sort this thing out. Can you prepare this guy 3 days? You need to set the perimeter around the mountain. And I don't want them to come, closer to that, because if they come closer, they're going to die, right? Okay, so let's do that face to face. This God, and the question that they've been having for years, and let's do it once and for all. I'm going to show myself up, okay? So they prepared themselves, 3 days time, and the Bible says that God started to just do this. And the mountain, the Mount Sinai was absolutely shaking. The Bible said the sight was so terrifying that they said to Moses, I think you should go, okay? That's before even the meeting. They said, Moses, I think you should go. That's why Moses ended up being on the mountain on his own, because they couldn't. They said, Moses, we'll listen to you. We can't listen to him. He hasn't even spoken yet. And they couldn't. So God has to find a way to make himself approachable to us. If you understand that, the whole point of Jesus really makes sense. He said that this Jesus is the express image of this invisible God. This God that is so vast and so big that we can't see. Jesus is like the hope that we have to come close to catching this God. And that's what the Bible says, that Christ in you is the hope of glory. He is the express image of his glory. He is the one who holds all things. People get mad at Jesus. Sometimes I laugh. I'm like, you know what? He owns you. If he does this, if you drop the mic, we all drop. The Bible says he upholds all things by the word of his power. Regardless of what people think about him, he's the one who holds everything together. Whatever is the universe, whatever is beyond that is him. That makes you really wonder. It makes you understand, see the cross in a new light. Christmas is coming and we're going to do our usual thing. The little baby in the manger. He's more than that.
Amen.
And if you think about me being that God, and you think about that story of the nativity, can you imagine me trying to make myself fit in this hole? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine for me to talk to all the digital bits in there? I'm going to turn myself into a little zero and fit in this phone. And that's why it's often said that the angels were in awe. When God made a decision, it was going to come down to these guys see the vastness of the universe, the vastness of God's world. This is the physical universe with the trillions or billions of universe. This is the physical world. But the spiritual world is far huge, is far bigger. The Bible says the spiritual creates the physical. People say that, this debate about creation, people say, yeah, God, so the universe came, out of nothing, so it's a bang. Well, they said nothing because they couldn't see anything. But we know there's nothing. There's nothing. I'm confusing my head now. There's something, but it's invisible. It's spiritual. When they say there's nothing, what they're saying is there's nothing physical. But Paul tells us that everything that's physical was made by what is spiritual. Of course, it's spiritual, you don't see it. You can't see it. You can see it differently with spiritual eyes. And so this is this God. And then he goes on to say, this God that he's talking about, he said, he by himself purged our sins. Look at the transition there. This amazing God, he's the one who came down. He's the one who, like me, pretended to be a dog, wagging my tail, even though I didn't have a tail, and showed how to connect with my dog. If we carry on with Joshua, I don't know if I want to do with time. Okay. Is that another one? Revelation. And this one is even more powerful. And it's about John the Apostle. And for those of you who know, who've read the Gospel of John, or even the Gospel, you know that John, in fact, was referred to as the disciple that Jesus loved. Because there was such an intimacy, a relationship with John and Jesus. The Bible says at some time, he was even, when Jesus was sitting, John would even have his head on his chest. That's how close they were. But then Jesus dies and rises from the dead, and then this John, for the first time in a long time, get to see that Jesus for who he is. And that's what we see as a glimpse. Go and read the whole passage. It's absolutely blow your mind if you haven't done so. Revelation 1:12-15. And he said, there I turned to see the voice that spoke with me. And having turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands, and in the midst of the 7 lampstands, one like the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the feet, and girded about the chest with a golden band. His head and hair were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes like a flame of fire. His feet were like fine brass, and as if refined in a furnace, and his voice was like the sound of many waters. Let's carry on this one. He had in his right hand 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a sharp double-edged sword, and his countenance was like the sun shining in his strength. And when I saw him, this is an understatement there. When I saw him, I felt. What is it? Is it fell?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I fell at his feet as dead, but he laid his right hand on me, saying to me, do not be afraid. I am the first and the last. I am the one who lives and who was dead. And behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. I have the keys of Hades and the keys of death. Wow. It's me. John's body couldn't take it. He just saw a glimpse of this Jesus. He didn't have to do anything. The glory, the presence was such that life went. But he's the Prince of Life. The Bible said I touched him. And he said, come back to life. Don't be afraid, my friend. It's me. But it's me like you've never known me before. I'm the one who is alive now. But I'm the one that you saw crucified on the cross. And now, I have the keys of Hades, which is where people die when they go. But I also have the keys to death. Which means I'm in charge now of everything. This is it. He's not some helpless baby in a manger. His name has become a swear word. And all that is a deliberate attempt to fool people from acknowledging and knowing him for who he really is. This is our Jesus. This is our King. Let's carry on this one. I want to try and bring it to close. And Paul, in the book of Colossians, gives us another amazing, brilliant expose on that. He has delivered us from the power of darkness and conveyed us into the kingdom of the Son of his love, in whom we have redemption and through his blood forgiveness of sin. He is the image, and that's what I said earlier. He is the image of the invisible God. The firstborn over all creation. For by him all things were created. You know what we said in the beginning in Genesis? The Spirit was moving, and God said, let there be light. And there was light. He is the word that was spoken. So all things were created. But for him, all things were created that are in heaven and that are on earth. Visible and invisible, whether throne or dominion, and principality and power. All things were created through him and for him. So what that means is that you were created for him. That's why he loves you so much. Because it's his idea, you existing, was his idea. Yeah, okay, mom and dad decide one day, okay, let's have it. But it was his idea. You were made for him. I was made for him. So whether I like him or hate him, I was made for him. One day I'm going to meet him.
That's right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, great.
He's talking about dominion, principalities, and powers. There's no authority. The one place where he handed over authority and we handed out authority to someone else was on this planet. That's why he came and he died. The Bible said that when he died, he rose again. That's why he said, I've taken back the authority and he gave it away. And that's why he says, all authority in Matthew 28. He said, when he rose, he said to his disciples, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Now you go and you make all nations disciples. He never lost control. He just gave some of that control to us on this planet. He blew it, he gave it to someone else. He came, he died, he shed his blood, he took that control. He said, I've got it now. This guy is an imposter. You go and you tell my people, you tell my children that I love them. That I gave my life for them. That I will do it again. You go and tell my family that I'm here. That daddy is here. He wants to see his children. This is how Jesus, everyone in Gawa they are his babies. They are his children. He loved them. He longed to see them. We stand in the way and we say that we are righteous, we are this, we are that, and then we stand in his way. But he loves them. He will do anything for them. He will give everything for them. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that we all who believe in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. When you see somebody in God, it doesn't matter what they do, it doesn't matter what the lifestyle is, God has big for them, he loves them, he longs for them. He wants to see the day when they will come to him and say, Daddy, I finally found you. I was lost, but now I'm found. Amazing grace. The person who sang that song sang it because of that. He said, I once was lost, but now I'm found. He's looking for his children. So Lord, what are we going to do? He said, son, I've got children. It doesn't matter who they are, posh, not posh, poor, rich, whatever. He doesn't care. It doesn't matter. He loves them. He loves them the same he loves you. He loves them the same he loves me. We make the mistake of thinking, oh, because I'm a good Christian, I come to church, I do the right thing, he loves me more than he loves. No, he doesn't. He loves them as much as he loves you. He loves me as much as he loves them.
That's right.
Sorry, I don't mean to shout at you, but it's just, I just feel what he's saying. I'm just feeling his heart. And I have to express it. I have to express what he's saying. And I want us to realize this is what we're here. If we're going to be here, do church on Sundays, do our little things, and I'm not interested. For those of you who know, I was part of the leadership of a far bigger church in Swansea. There's no point of me being here and giving all that up. We're here because God says something about this peninsula, about God. Where everybody in Swansea say, oh, they're rich, they've got this, they've got that. Listen, people need Jesus.
That's right.
And we need to do all that we can to get out of the way that they may see this Jesus. Let's try and finish this one. Okay, carry on. Are we okay for me to finish it quickly?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And he is the head of the body. You know, last week I joked that you can love Jesus and hate the church. He is the head of the body, the church. Who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he may have the preeminence. Guys, this is what it is. You know, Rachel and I were having a conversation recently, and we're talking about the challenges of ministry, and some people have been telling her about, about how easy it is if you belong to a certain group and denomination, you get this pot of money and you got this and that. And of course, I'm one of these ministers who don't get paid or don't get paid, who work. And this Paul, who's rising, that's how he was. He was a tent maker. Okay? Any collection Paul received, he gave it to the other churches. He himself worked with his students. I'm not against minister being paid. Okay? If you want, I can put, two-piece suits, put a collar here. If make you listen to me more, I'll do that if you like. Okay? Would you like that? Or do you like that? Don't you do that? Obviously, I'm going to be sweating more. If I do that. But the reason why I'm saying this is this. We are never meant as leaders. And of course, some people think, oh, it's too casual, it's too simple. Good. Because that does that you don't pay too much attention to me. Okay? Because you don't go, oh, but this is coming. Oh, this guy, I want to see him. My goodness, man, he's so like dapper. All this nonsense. Okay? So we keep it like that, okay? I'm just doing a bit, but we keep it like that so you don't focus on me, because so that in all things Jesus may have the preeminence. Yeah. That's what we do. I'm not against all this attire. I'm not against all that. But what I'm saying is that if any of that takes the glory from Jesus, if people focus on us instead of focus on Jesus, we have a problem. That's what I can do this thing. I don't care because I don't matter, really, to be honest. John the Baptist, when he came to see the guy that he was prepared, he was supposed to come and reveal, when he saw a glimpse of Jesus, he said, wow, so this is him. The guy was my cousin. He was a carpenter. I didn't even know who he was. And suddenly, I realized who he is. And when he said, baptize me, he said, are you kidding me? Me baptize you? You are the one. I can't baptize you. He said, John, let's fulfill all that is written. Okay, go ahead and do it, because I know you've seen a little bit. And you know what John says? When his disciple came to him later on, John says, I must decrease, and he must increase. Guys, that's what I want. That's what I want this church to be. A church where people can say, it's not about us, it's about Jesus. And I believe that if we're able to step out of the way, just as John the Baptist went, wow, so he's not just a carpenter, he's not just a baby in a manger, he's not just, he is the one. When you discover that he is the one, there's only thing you can do. It's just your knees just fold like this. And you bow before him because you recognize that he is the one. People thought Neil was the one. He wasn't the one. Do people get that? People don't get that. So not everybody watches these trilogies, but anyway, we pass that. Okay, we start talking about the Rabbi Church. Okay. For it pleased the Father that in him all the fullness should dwell, and by him to reconcile all things to himself, by him whether things on earth or things in heaven, having made peace through the blood of his cross. Just so I carry on, my last passage is coming out. This is where I'm going to finish, and I think I've already said what I want to say about this, but just to read the passage. 1 Corinthians 2, 1-5. And I, brethren, when I came to you, did not come with excellence of speech or of wisdom, declaring to you the testimony of God. For I determined not to know anything among you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. I was with you in weakness, in fear, and in my trembling. And my speech and my preaching were not with persuasive word of human wisdom, but in the demonstration of the Spirit and of power, that your faith should not be in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. Guys, this is what I just said to you. We want to determine as a church to know nothing is except one thing, that's Jesus and him crucified. It's because of his cross that you and I are here.
Amen.
So Paul was reminded of these Greek philosophers. He said, no, I'm going to be a philosopher. I'm going to be this amazing guy who can reason his way out. He debated and debated. No one was interested in Jesus. And he realized, wow, so it doesn't work. So what he's saying there is something explicit. He's been out there with this philosopher. He's trying to use his brain and his head. He said, when I came to you, I decided that, you know what, that's not what worked. What works is Jesus Christ and his cross. Christ and him crucified. Sadly, in the body of Christ today, we rarely hear about the cross. It's all about self-help. Self-help. It's all about making you pumped up. You know? You can go out there and then by the end of the week you are deflated. Oh, I'm going to go to church again. Pumped up again the weekend. You're supposed to be pumped and stay pumped. Right? Does that make sense? We're supposed to be consistent in all that. The church sometimes becomes like a drug or something. It's like, oh, let's go and take our shots. I know it's a bit weird for a minister to be saying things like that, but I hope you get my point. Paul said, I determined to know nothing except Jesus Christ and him crucified. You know, that's why God sometimes gives us challenges that are so uncomfortable. See, when it's comfortable, often it's like, But Paul said, when I came to the Corinthians, I was in fear and trembling. I'm like, when am I going to start? You know, when God said, do something in Gawa, it's like, who the hell are you? How many black people do you see in Gawa? How many black people do you see in Gawa? How many people? Of all the people, I'm like, God, of all the people that you could have asked to do something else, why me? Come on now. You know somebody, right? You know, I'm originally from the French-speaking country, not even an English-speaking country. French was my first language. I said, somebody said often God has a sense of humor, hasn't he? He's got a sense of humor. And Roy, who is one of the trustees of this place, this building, we were talking one day in the early days, and he said, well, we're talking about Lady Barham, this lady, you can see a photo somewhere. And he said to me, he said, well, Lady Barham wanted to see things happen, but I'm not quite sure, you know, if he had planned that a guy like you with a person, but do you know why God did it, right? So that when tomorrow you hear that God is following Jesus, you know that has nothing to do with me or anyone else. You know that's him.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Because I don't take the usual boxes. Okay? My dress code is a bit different established. So many things are different. But you see, if through that, God can still do something in Gawa, then you know that even if your faith is small and he asks you to do something, whatever daunting it is, but what I'm saying is it's not that comfortable. God doesn't say to do things that are comfortable and say, oh, this makes sense, or that. It's not about that. It's about, you know, I can't do it. Weaknesses and fear. I'm trembling. How am I going to even talk to anyone? And he said, that's good, because you recognize you can't do it. Now I can do it, and I'll step in, and I'll do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Are you encouraged?
Yeah.
Do you love the Jesus anymore? That's what this message is about. And you see me wear this thing. Some of you want a normal church service, so I'm going to stop now before I talk about this. Right? Okay, but I wanted to follow up on that, but you know, we have a service plan. We're going to make sure we follow as normal, and then maybe at the end I'll share a little more about that. Is that okay? So, Brahma, I don't know if you got 1, 2 songs.